Good evening, everybody. It's Aaron here saying hi, and just updating a little bit on what's going on in my life, where I'm at, talking about some random stuff, kind of like I usually do, and we'll just sort of see how that goes, and we'll see how long this lasts. Great to see all of you. Of course, you can see me, but I can't actually see you as you're watching this. If I could, that'd be a little bit more creepy now, wouldn't it? Anyway, let's see, quick update. It's a little over 9 months now since I kind of came out. I'm at about 8.5 months on hormones, and actually today marks exactly 8 months since I was full time, not only at home with my family and friends on Facebook, but also at work too. So that's 8 months ago today that I officially was 100% out and living as a female in front of everybody. Time kind of flies, it's interesting. Looking back, it doesn't feel like it's been all that long, but I guess imagining some of the longer and harder days that I've had in that time, it feels like it's been forever at the same time. I heard that phrase once applied to raising children. The days are long, but the years go quickly. I think a lot of times looking back, especially on processes that have been hard, but that you're glad you've gone through, that's kind of how it is, right? Where when you're dealing with it, it feels like it's a slog and it never ends, but looking back, you almost can't even imagine how things were before you started. Um, Having said that, I didn't have a whole lot really planned out to talk about, except for one little topic that I thought would be interesting to dive into a little bit. What I call the mirror. Uh, Anybody who themselves has started transitioning probably will be familiar with this concept, if not has experienced it themselves to some extent. But what I mean by the mirror is the fact that whenever I look into a mirror, it's something of a dice roll who I'm going to see looking back at me. On a good day, on the best days, I look in a mirror and I see a beautiful woman looking back at me. On the worst days, I still see my old masculine self, and I see it as though nothing has changed whatsoever. As time goes on, I find the odds are better and better towards the feminine side of that. Some days are better than others, but I'm happy to say this past weekend has actually been a really good one when more than once I've just sort of idly caught my glance in the mirror and felt myself and felt really comfortable about that. It's an extremely calming feeling and really kind of enjoyable in a way. I'm not quite sure the word I'm looking for here, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is that it's all at once a sense of calm, a sense that things are how they're supposed to be, and a confirmation that the challenges are worth it and the decision was the right one. Not that I ever had any doubt about that, but it's always good to have that reminder every now and again. There was actually a couple times this weekend when I actually just was caught staring in a mirror. I was fortunate that my fiance was with me this weekend, and apart from just being in a generally good mood that we were together, at one point I just had this blank stare into the mirror, and she noticed, and I said, "I'm liking what I'm seeing," and it was one of those moments that really was pretty awesome. Thinking back, I can remember a handful of the times I've felt that way. One of the first actually came just shortly after I came out to my then wife. Um, for the longest time while I was married and while I was still presenting male, I maintained some facial hair in particular, kind of had a goatee kind of thing going on here. I was told that, oh, it looks good on you, it's great, that's how you should be. And when I finally shaved for the first time and actually was totally cleanly shaven, it was like something, kind of a switch went off in my mind, and I saw that, wow, this really was the right thing to do. And it was the very first time I actually looked at myself in the mirror and thought just for a moment that it was a woman looking back at me. Now, granted, I was just taking off on starting the process, couldn't do makeup worth shit, uh, still had a lot of facial hair to deal with, Even the hair on my head was still not that long. My wardrobe left a lot to be desired. A lot of things still had to happen, but it was a start, and that was the first time I saw something. It was about a month later that a girlfriend of mine and I went to Sephora. She actually was nice enough to go with me for the evening. They had a deal there. Well, they still have a deal there. If you're willing to spend at least $50, which by the way is very, very easy to do there, they will give you a free 45-minute makeover. And I thought, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to do that. Figured that would be a chance not only to buy some of the products I was likely going to want to use, but also just to feel good and maybe learn some techniques and get a sense for what I was doing. And I will say that it was absolutely worth it. Now, I'll say first of all, my credit card bill expanded by a little over $400 that night. I don't regret a penny of it. But looking in the mirror afterwards, seeing how I looked after, there was definitely a woman looking at me that night. In fact, several other women that were in the store made it a point to come over and tell me how good I looked. I suspect they were fully aware of what was going on and my situation, but it felt really good. The mirror has been pretty cruel to me a lot of times since then. I would say, especially in the first few months, more often than not, the mirror was not my friend at all. I had sort of a mindset going into things, and for I would say 3 or 4 months, it probably lasted pretty well, where I knew I was going to look a little bit odd. I knew I was going to go through that kind of androgynous and sort of awkward looking phase. But I also sort of took the mindset at the time that, well, I don't give a fuck what people think about me. And I think that's good to a point, but that wore off after a while. And that led to a few months of just kind of feeling sad with how I looked, feeling sad about my body, kind of frustrated with the fact that a lot of these things are a slow process. But more and more, I'm starting to see just a little bit at a time, kind of chiseling away at some of that negativity and some of that self-doubt, and really starting to latch on to the things here and there that I really like seeing. Makes me feel a lot better, more further confirmation that this is all a good decision, the right decision. A few other trans folks I've talked to have described a similar experience. The trans folks I've talked to, I should say, that are further along than I am, that have been doing it for years or longer, have said that any number of times they kind of stopped and asked themselves, like, holy shit, is this all worth it? Because it is stressful, but that every time in their mind they start thinking through it, and the decision to continue and go forward easily outweighs any kind of debate about or doubt about maybe just going back and saying forget it. And the same is absolutely true for me. I've joked with a few people about maybe writing a book someday. Something I have found, at least in my limited research, there's a handful of books written by what I would call trans celebrities. Um, and nothing against them, nothing wrong with them. I love them as my sisters just the same, but they write from a perspective of telling a story that doesn't really match up with what most of the rest of us are ever going to experience in life. Folks like Caitlyn Jenner, for instance, are able to just throw down massive amounts of money and just instantly have things done, kind of when they want on a whim. Most of us can't do that. Even I feel bad saying this because I don't want to come across the wrong way, but folks like Jazz Jennings, you might recognize that name from the TV show I Am Jazz. Great in the sense that the TV show exposed a lot of folks to trans people and just kind of what it goes through, but her experience having a TV crew following her around and having just so much attention she has gotten, that has availed her to a lot of treatments and a lot of privileges that frankly just aren't available for most people. So the point I was getting at is that while there is some information out there in this sense, I haven't seen a whole lot that really describes just how challenging the process can be. And make no mistake, I knew going in it was going to be challenging. I knew it wouldn't be easy. But I think even in spite of that knowledge, I have found myself more than once blindsided by just how challenging it can be at times and just how emotionally draining and just how hard the up and down spikes can be. Now, having said all of that, for anybody out there watching who maybe is questioning themselves, none of that is to say that I regret my decision or that anybody should, reconsider their decision. That's not what I'm going for at all. Absolutely, it's the right decision. But I think it's one of those things, if I had a better sense going in just how hard some of it would be, I might have been better prepared to deal with it. Maybe. Maybe that's optimistic. Maybe I'm playing Monday morning quarterback on that. I don't know. Feel free to tell me in the comments if you see it differently. Uh, but anyway, yeah, I despite the challenges, it's a good thing, and it does get better. I don't think I'm anywhere near a point where I'm out of the woods with any of that yet. An interesting thing I've noticed is that cycles in my emotions, presumably amplified by hormones, are absolutely a thing. A lot of research suggests that we all know, we hear about PMS and, quote unquote, that time of the month and those kind of things. Research suggests that guys, cisgendered males, actually have kind of emotional cycles too, where they go through a roughly monthly cycle of up and down. I would suspect that probably is true. Maybe it's not as extreme, not as talked about, and doesn't have physical symptoms of menstruation and bleeding along with it, but it happens. So what happens when you have a trans woman, who was originally biologically male in some sense, now on feminine hormones? Wouldn't be surprising. Shouldn't be surprising. I was still surprised. But sure enough, looking back, it's almost a perfect monthly cadence where I get a day or two where I feel a little bummed, feel okay for a day or two after that, followed by 2 to 3 days of just absolute horrible anxiety, depression, and bleak feelings like everything is awful. Learning to deal with that and learning to expect that is interesting to say the least. I'm gonna be the first to say that I am not yet good at dealing with it, but I'm trying to actively focus when I'm feeling good on getting myself ready for when that's going to come again, because it will come again. I have no doubt that I'm gonna experience some pretty low times again between now and I say between now and sometime. I don't know if there is ever a sometime that any of that ends. Could be for the rest of my life. Maybe. I guess I'll find out. But you notice that I'm actually smiling through talking about a lot of this, and I think that's important to express too, is that I like what I'm becoming. And I think it's a good thing. I am able to get up in the morning, dress the way I want to dress, present myself the way I want to, um, throw on my jewelry, my makeup, things like this. I feel good that way. I like being that way. The fact that I can actually go to work, do my job, and still be me while I'm doing it is absolutely amazing. And it's something that I am trying to keep in mind and remind myself of just how thankful I am for that, because what a difference that has made in my life. I think that's about all I've got for today. As I said, combination of things I want to talk about and things that just are kind of random. But that's all for today. We'll see how long it takes until I actually publish another video. It was almost a month in between this time. See if I can do the next one maybe a little bit sooner. But have a good night, everybody. Bye.